Hello everybody. It is February 25th, 2026 here in the United States of America. You'll have to bear with me. I have a bit of a cold. This won't be a long video. I'm getting over it, but talking for long periods of time is a little difficult at the moment without coughing my brains out. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about tonight was the Democrat reaction to the State of the Union speech and their actions during the speech. Now, for anyone out there, the speech, I thought, was pretty decent. I think it was a fairly straightforward State of the Union speech. President Trump again reiterated his goals for the country, both foreign and domestic, although I think he focused more on domestic issues than anything else. There isn't really much to go over that anyone hasn't already heard. The speech seems to have been received fairly well. The polling numbers for it are pretty good. I think it had a 63% approval rating last time I checked, and it seems like this could help the Republicans get back on track a bit for the midterms. And I think another thing that helped them was the reaction of some Democrat Party politicians during the speech, their actions during the speech, and their reactions after the speech. I think the Democratic Party of the United States is in dire need of competent strategists and also in dire need of politicians that are willing to listen to those competent strategists and ignore the activist elements within their party. So during the speech, and this is something that really stuck out to me, was the young Ukrainian woman that had her throat slit on public transportation last year. Her parents were present during the speech. Her parents were present and invited, I'm assuming, because what happened to her is something that President Trump has addressed directly as being something caused by soft on-crime policies from Democratic judges. The particular person that killed this young woman was somebody who was let out of prison repeatedly, had charges reduced, repeatedly for an innumerable amount of crimes. This person was severely mentally ill as well, and this philosophy of handling crime by soft hands, peace, and understanding ensured that this man was back out on the street to offend again and again and again, and that it cost this young woman her life. Now, President Trump, I believe, is correct in his assertion that Democrats are too soft on crime. They have this philosophy that human nature is something infinitely malleable, and if you just find the right combination of techniques and strategies when dealing with human beings, then you can eliminate crime. If you just have enough social programs, crime will go away. If you give somebody enough second chances and classes to take on how they should treat their fellow man, then crime will be reduced or eliminated. Getting rid of police officers is something that will reduce crime. Will take that inflammatory element out of neighborhoods that these people think helps to incite violence against local communities and increase crime rates. I won't get into leftist philosophy on crime in this video, but that just kind of sums it up. While these policies seem to be backfiring all around the country, there has been incident after incident of a violent criminal that should have been put in prison for a very lengthy period of time being let out repeatedly thanks to social justice, where this person eventually ends up taking the life of another innocent civilian. But anyways, this woman's parents were at the State of the Union and introduced by Trump. Yes, this was for political reasons. He's making a point. He invited his parents to make, or her parents to make a point. Democrats failed to stand when her parents were introduced. That was not received well by the average person. That makes the Democrats look petty and petulant. These parents lost their young daughter in a horrific way on public transit. And because of their animosity towards President Trump, they failed to do the honorable and decent thing, which was stand for these parents as a show of respect for the young daughter that they lost. This looked very bad. This makes the Democrats look like people that are over-politicizing human life. Yes, you could say the same thing for Republicans. Yes, they may play games like that, but this is a crucial time for the Democrats. They're doing better in polling. Republicans are losing favor among independents who are losing faith in the MAGA movement, and Trump's failures to deliver on certain domestic policies and this posturing for a potential war with Iran and the failure to bring the Ukrainian-Russian war to a close. And all Democrats really need to do at this point is not be stupid, to offer a safe alternative to Republicans, to Republican failures, to pull back from the inflammatory things that push people towards Republicans in the first place, the social justice movements, the woke politics, if you will, racializing everything in the country. Democrats would have fairly smooth sailing at this point if the Democratic Party was still the Democratic Party of the 1990s. The working class feels like they've been abandoned by the Democratic Party. They don't identify with the social platforms and issues that the party is pushing. They think the party is run by its college-age activists more than anything else, and the party leadership seems to be perfectly willing to just cater to these people endlessly and abandon the working class, which they used to favor so much. As I mentioned before, these actions were seen as petulant, petty, and vindictive, especially at a time now where Democrats were, again, as I mentioned before, starting to improve in polling over Republicans. I feel like this is something that just set them back yet again. The only reason that Republicans are doing as well as they are is because the Democrats are that much worse, or seem to be that much worse by much of the party, and all they seem to be doing is just, proving half the country right yet again. I think not standing for this young couple was a horrifically stupid choice on their part. And it's probably the worst thing they did, actually, during the State of the Union speech. Also, too, many Democrats are ardent supporters of Ukraine, and this young woman was Ukrainian, and her parents are Ukrainian. And she came over here as a refugee fleeing to America for a safe haven, and she was murdered thanks to many failures of our criminal justice system. I don't like the Democratic Party, obviously, and I'm not a big fan of the Republican Party, but what the Democratic Party needs to do at this time, where the Republican Party has lost much of their favor, much of their glow, and President Trump is struggling in the polls, is to move back towards the center. Be the Democratic Party of old. It is not necessary to court a bunch of young activists to win elections. They can grab independents. And all they really need to do is start to moderate. And the people that aren't so politically active, which would be most of the country that is perfectly willing to vote for somebody just on face value, give them a couple things, promise security and stability, tax relief and debt relief, and they'll vote for that person, regardless of some of the stupid things they've said or pushed for in the past. And I think the Democratic Party is so ardent, or so hell-bent on continuing to embrace this ideological and activist core within their party that they don't know how to play the game of politics anymore. This was an easy win for them, a very easy win. All they really needed to do at key points during the speech was to acknowledge what was happening in the room, be a decent person, stand up, applaud, and clap. It would have gone over very well for their party. They would have been looked at as magnanimous, as human, as honorable. And instead of doing that, they behaved as petulant children. This is a pretty big problem across American politics as a whole. We don't really have any professional leaders in the halls of power. They're nothing but petty activists and petulant children. And then I saw some other Democratic activists on X copy what Nancy Pelosi did, where she tore the speech in half, like a 5-year-old child throwing a tantrum, and they're doing this again like it makes them look cool. And again, though, they seem to be failing to read the room. Half the country, if not more, is completely fed up with them and has been fed up with them for years. They want an alternative to what is being offered. They want something that promises stability, peace, prosperity, debt relief, a hope of a future. They don't want petulant children ripping speeches in half because they didn't like what was said. Refute it. Rebuke it. Come up with a better alternative. Dispute what President Trump says in his speech, the claims that he makes. Come up with something palatable for people as an alternative. And yet they keep failing to do so, and will probably continue to fail to do so. And I'm just saying this as best I can as like an outside observer, like a neutral observer, even though I'm sure everyone could probably guess what party I favor, simply out of necessity. I think it would be good for the Democrats to have some honest people within their leadership, really take stock of where they're at with the American people. But also, I think another problem is, too, they have given up on courting half the country because they legitimately do view them as not worth working for, whose votes aren't worth working for. They think they're stuck in the past, they're bigots, they're worthless people, not people they want to populate their glorious and great future. Bigoted, backwards, and I don't really think they care at this point, or many of these activists actually care about trying to get their votes in the first place. They think they can continue on business as usual with the base that they have and do well, but I don't think that's the case. I think Americans are slowly moving away from their activist camps more and more towards realpolitik, so to speak. They want results, not activism. They want results from both parties. And at the moment, they don't seem to be getting that. So they're going to go with, I guess, the least bad alternative. And at this point, I would say much of the country still views the Republican Party as the lesser of two evils. But anyways, it's really all I wanted to talk about in this video today. I will be back Friday evening with a live stream. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't really got to do a live stream lately. And then Saturday with a big video, something that I'll do a bit of prep for, something that I'm excited to talk about. It's a little different than the rest of my content, but I think it's very relevant to today's political climate. But anyways, if you enjoyed this content, if you enjoyed this analysis, please drop me a like, subscribe to my channel. Dropping a like really does help me in the algorithm. That's something that I really trying to work on, making sure my videos catch the algorithm, trying to find the balance of, talking about something I actually want to talk about and then something that's also relevant with the algorithm. So any help, I would appreciate it. And until next time.